Tom Walker believed he had finally won. After decades of work, stress and sacrifice, he had traded cold winters and endless bills for warm mornings, ocean sunsets, and a future he thought was secure. Thailand wasn't supposed to be a temporary escape. It was supposed to be home. He had the retirement visa, he had savings, he had a house. Most importantly, he had Thara, the woman he trusted more than anyone. But today, Tom has 48 hours to leave the country. His bank account is empty, his visa status has been revoked, and the woman he built his retirement around has vanished. What happened wasn't a sudden betrayal. It was something much worse. A slow-moving disaster hidden behind years of trust. This is the story of how one signature destroyed a retirement dream overnight, and why the system moved faster than Tom could react. When Tom first arrived in Thailand, he approached everything cautiously. He wasn't reckless, he wasn't naive. He had spent years reading forums, watching videos, and speaking with the other retirees. Everyone warned him about the scams, everyone warned him about relationships, everyone warned him about paperwork. Tom listened, at least at first. Then he met Thara. She was patient, helpful, reliable. She translated documents, helped him navigate government offices, explained cultural differences, introduced him to local friends. Over time, she became more than a partner. She became his bridge to an entirely different life, the person he depended on for everything. And that dependency grew gradually, so gradually that Tom never noticed it happening. By year 3, she handled most administrative tasks. By year 5, she knew every detail of his finances. By year 7, she was helping manage the bank account deposit required for his retirement visa. It felt normal, efficient, practical. After all, they were building a future together, or so he believed. The first warning sign wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a huge withdrawal. It wasn't an argument. It was paperwork, boring paperwork. The kind of document most people sign without reading carefully. A power of attorney authorization. Thara explained it simply. She said it would make dealing with banks easier, government paperwork easier, visa renewals easier. Tom hesitated, not because he distrusted her, but because he didn't fully understand the document. For several days it sat untouched. He even considered consulting a lawyer. Then life got busy. The document remained on the kitchen table. Each day it seemed less important, less threatening, less urgent. Eventually he signed. The decision took less than 30 seconds. The consequences would last years. Nothing happened immediately. Weeks passed, then months. Tom forgot about the document entirely, which was exactly why it was so dangerous. The withdrawals began slowly, small amounts, nothing that triggered concern, nothing that looked suspicious. Routine transactions, administrative expenses, transfers between accounts, professional fees, everything appeared legitimate. Tom trusted what he saw. Most importantly, he trusted who he saw, Thara. The woman beside him every day, the woman discussing future travel plans, the woman talking about growing old together. The withdrawals continued, the balance slowly shrank. But because the reductions happened over time, Tom never experienced the shock that may have forced him to investigate sooner. His greatest mistake wasn't trusting Thara, it was assuming trust eliminated the need for verification. The collapse began on a Tuesday. Tom remembers the day because nothing seemed unusual. He woke up, walked to his favourite cafe, had a coffee, read the newspaper, went to the ATM. Then his bank card stopped working. At first, he assumed it was a technical issue. The machine rejected the card. He tried again, rejected. His stomach tightened. Still, he wasn't panicking. Not yet. Banks make mistakes. Systems fail. Cards expire. There had to be a reasonable explanation. Then he opened his banking app and froze. The account balance was almost gone. Not reduced, gone. His retirement visa deposit had disappeared. Years of savings had vanished. Most people assume the financial loss is the worst part. For Tom, it wasn't. The real nightmare started afterward, because retirement visas depend on maintaining specific financial requirements. Once those requirements disappear, a chain reaction begins, and the chain reaction doesn't care about explanations. It doesn't care about betrayal. It doesn't care about context. Systems respond to numbers, not emotions. While Tom was desperately trying to understand the missing money, something else was already happening behind the scenes. The financial deficiency triggered scrutiny. Reviews began. Notifications were generated. Administrative processes started moving. By the time Tom understood he had a financial problem, immigration systems had already identified a residency problem, and those systems moved much faster than he did. Tom didn't surrender. He fought immediately. He contacted the bank. Hours on hold. Conflicting information. Every conversation seemed to create new problems. Then he contacted Thara. No answer. Messages remained unread. Calls went straight to voicemail. At first he worried something had happened to her. An accident, a misunderstanding, an emergency. The truth was harder to accept, because accepting it meant admitting the person he trusted most might be responsible. And Tom wasn't emotionally ready for that possibility. Not yet. Days later, official immigration notices arrived. Deadlines, requirements, warnings. Each requirement felt impossible. Some demanded paperwork he couldn't obtain quickly. Others required evidence he didn't yet possess. Every solution seemed dependent on time. Unfortunately, time was the one thing he no longer had. Phone calls went unanswered. Appointments were unavailable. Everyone acknowledged the problem. Nobody could stop the process. The machine was already moving, and Tom was trapped beneath it. The financial loss hurt, but the psychological damage was worse. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, stopped answering messages from friends. Every morning began with dread. Every evening ended with uncertainty. For years he had believed Thailand was home. Now every interaction made him feel like an outsider. A problem, a case number, a deadline. The dream he spent years building was disappearing in front of him, and nobody seemed able to slow it down. Eventually, Tom learned the hardest lesson of all. The greatest vulnerability wasn't the visa, it wasn't the bank account, it wasn't the paperwork. It was concentrating everything around a single point of trust. One person, one signature, one authorization. The entire structure of his retirement rested on a foundation he never thought to test. When that foundation disappeared, everything above it collapsed. Not gradually, not eventually, immediately. Tom's story is a painful reminder that trust and verification must coexist, especially when finances, residency status and legal authority become intertwined. Because the most devastating betrayals rarely arrive with warning signs that are easy to recognise. They arrive disguised as convenience, as partnership, as love, and by the time danger becomes visible, The consequences may already be unfolding. Thanks for watching. If you've experienced a similar situation or know someone whose retirement, relationship or financial future was turned upside down by misplaced trust, share your story in the comments below. Your experience may help someone else avoid the same mistake. And if you have a story that deserves to be featured in a future video, we'd love to hear it. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next story.